Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Doyle. This is the Verdigris Table where I teach you how to play Dungeons and Dragons, how to become a better player and have a better time playing this game, and how to eventually take your turn behind the Dungeon Master's screen. Looking forward to that stuff. But right now we're in the midst of a D&D 101 introductory sort of thing, and we are continuing our conversation about combat. Combat is one of the cornerstones of D&D, and there is a robust structure of rules built around it. Pretty much all of the rules as a player can be found in the player's handbook. It's part 2. It's a chapter that's, I don't know, 10, 12 pages. If you don't have a copy of that and you've been playing this game for more than a minute, you probably should pick up a copy of that. One way to do so is down below in the description. I have my link. I get a little piece of that action. Thanks for that if you choose to go that route. Otherwise, your friendly neighborhood game shop will probably have a copy of that, and if you choose to support those fine people, please do, with my blessing. Now, in part 1, we talked about initiative and movement and location, and we said that every turn you can 1 move and 2 take an action. But there's also this third thing called bonus actions. Certain spells and abilities are going to be bonus actions. Every round of combat is actually 6 seconds. There's 10 rounds of combat in a minute, so that works out to 6 seconds. So in those 6 seconds of slow-mo, right, bullet time, you can move X amount of feet according to your speed and do one main thing, but there are these little things that we can kind of squeeze in there. So a barbarian going into a rage, or the druid casting healing word are going to be bonus actions. Now, not every character is going to have something to do with their bonus action every turn, and that's okay. But in D&D, we like to talk a lot about the action economy. And that's a whole more advanced topic that deserves its own video at some point. But essentially, the side in a fight that manages to do more things in the same amount of time is at a distinct advantage. Now, if you're not sure what to do with your bonus action, or you don't really have much available to you, particularly at lower levels, 2-weapon fighting is a decent option. This one I see get twisted up a lot, so I'm just going to put it right up here on the screen for you. But if you make a melee weapon attack, you can, as a bonus action, make a second attack with another weapon in your offhand. Now, there's caveats to this. Both weapons must be light. You have to use, your main action as an attack. You can't just bonus action offhand attack without first attacking with a melee weapon to take up your main action. And if and when you hit with your bonus action attack, you don't get the same damage modifier you would with your main hand. And if you stop and think about it, that makes sense. You're not getting the same amount of strength or dexterity off of your offhand. So if you're trying to create a drow wielding 2 scimitars, yeah, you can do that at level 1. All right, so on top of movement, action, and bonus action, we also have reaction. And you get 1 reaction per round. Notice I didn't say per turn, because a reaction is something that you do on someone else's turn. You don't take a reaction on your turn. So once per round of combat, you can squeeze in a reaction. Again, there's a bunch of spells and abilities that count as reactions. The most common, I would say, is an attack of opportunity or an opportunity attack. So an opportunity attack is when you are in melee combat, face-to-face, hand-to-hand combat with an opponent, and they leave your reach. You get to make an opportunity attack. Again, this is reaction, so you can only do this once per round. So if multiple enemies leave your reach, then you can only attack one of them. You could choose to attack none of them and save your reaction for something else, but you would not be able to attack both of them. An important note, if the enemy is forced to leave, right, an explosion knocks them off of their feet and pushes them away, or whatever, your buddy shoves them away, then that does not trigger an attack of opportunity. Now keep in mind, you are making a single melee attack. There's a lot of abilities that specify on your turn or when you take the attack action, and those would not apply. So like a fighter's action surge, you couldn't use on an attack of opportunity, on an opportunity attack. Fun fact, the monk's stunning strike and the rogue's sneak attack both seem perfectly legal to me on an opportunity attack. I often describe it this way. If you are in a fight with someone face to face, melee combat with somebody, and you were to turn and walk away, you would be opening up yourself to a knife in the back or whatever, right? You're dropping your defenses, you're turning tail and running, and that triggers that attack of opportunity. Now, there is a way to defensively, retreat, to move out of somebody's reach without triggering an attack of opportunity, and it is called Disengage. Though in many rounds of combat, your character is going to be attacking or casting a spell, and once we're finished with combat, we're going to talk about magic. There's a whole primer on that coming up, so stay tuned, you casters. But there's also a host of other actions you can take, like Disengage. You may have additional ones from your class or maybe even your race, magic items or feats you have taken, but there is a core set that is like universally available to every kind of character. You can use your action to search, use an object, ready an action, like hold an action, hide, help, dash, disengage, dodge.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
So taking the dash action allows you to move twice your normal speed, right? So if it says 30 feet on the character sheet and we take the dash action, we can move 60 feet this round. I like to think of it as, instead of power walking, right, your 30 feet or whatever your standard movement speed is, while you're doing something else, swinging a sword, shooting an arrow, casting a spell, you are instead just flat out running for these 6 seconds. Dash is a solid option if you need to get into position, right? You can't do anything from where you are. You move your movement speed. You still are not close enough to the enemy to really do what you got to do. So dashing is a great option. Alternatively, dashing is also a great option if you are trying to get the heck out of dodge. Speaking of dodge, dodge is going on the defensive. So when you take the dodge action, you're making yourself harder to hit. All attacks against you for that next round, up until your next turn, are going to be at disadvantage. Any dexterity saves that you have to make are going to be made with advantage, with the caveat that as long as you can see the danger coming, as long as you can see your attacker, their attack will be made at disadvantage. Dodge is a pretty solid default if you really don't have anything else you can do. It's also a good fallback if you're not sure what to do. One as a player, but two, maybe in character. Hey, are we trying to kill these guys, or are we talking right now? It's your turn, but you don't want to, start the fight if you're not fighting. So dodge is a great default setting. The help action, I think, goes underappreciated at a lot of tables. When you take the help action, you are using your turn to give another player, to give another ally at the table advantage on their roll on their next turn. So if the room is filling up with water and the lever over there is a giant heavy stone mechanism that you're not sure you're going to make your strength roll to move, right, because you're a gnome wizard or whatever, you can use the help action to lend a hand to the paladin with a much higher strength bonus, so that on their turn they're going to get advantage on the roll to flip the lever, stop the trap, drain the room, and save the day, stop everybody from drowning. Another decent time to consider using the help action is when whatever enemy you're fighting is resistant or even immune to the type of damage that you're dealing, right? If you really can't hit this thing in front of you, this monster, then it might be worth giving advantage to your allies around you who can. So resistance is taking half as much damage from particular types, whereas immunity is taking 0. There's also vulnerability in some cases where a creature would be very susceptible to a specific kind of damage and take double damage. So, specific evil undead creatures are going to be vulnerable to radiant, to holy light damage. But more often, an ethereal creature is going to be resistant or maybe even immune to piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage, to your main regular weapon physical types, right? And it kind of makes sense. It does make sense. If you swing a sword at a ghost, either it's not going to do as much as it would if you were hitting a creature of flesh and blood, or it's going to pass right through and do nothing. So if you're in that situation where you literally can't damage the enemy, then taking the help action is a pretty good way to assist your comrades who can put the hurt on this thing. Hide is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to make a stealth check, and that goes against the enemy's passive perception. And if you succeed, you are hidden. They don't know where you are. Now, if you're fighting in an empty room or a featureless void, then yeah, hide might not actually be available to you. But if you are creative in a lot of circumstances, you can use your environment to hide and really use that to your advantage, literally. When you attack a creature that you are hidden from, you get advantage on that attack roll. They don't know where, danger is coming from, so they are less likely to get out of the way of it. You have an advantage. The second you do make an attack, then you are no longer hidden from the creature you're attacking or from anybody else. The flip side of all that is that if a creature tries to attack you and you're hidden from them, then they, one, have to guess where you are, and even if they do manage to guess correctly, they are attacking at disadvantage. So a clever, imaginative player might think that they could use their movement to hide and free up their action to attack or cast a spell or whatever, and it doesn't quite work that way, but almost. You can use your movement to gain cover, which is another great way to use your environment, to use the terrain. If you manage to get half cover, then your AC, your armor class, goes up by 2 points, at least in that moment. If you manage to gain 3/4 cover, then you have +5 to AC. You're that much harder to hit. If you gain total cover, then yeah, the enemy actually can't hit you, at least from where they are. But you're not hidden. So the enemy can use their movement to regain line of sight and attack you. They can also use area of effect spells to potentially catch you in them. And okay, yeah, magic on deck next time. But there's a difference between gaining cover, even if the enemy absolutely can't see you, and being hidden. Now, if an enemy is hidden from you and you're trying to look for them, you can take the search action. So that would be a perception check, no longer relying on your passive perception. You can actively roll a perception check, and that is being contested by their stealth check. Alternatively, you can take the search action to look for anything else. I'm searching for the Duke's signet ring, or you're looking for a particular document on the bookshelf. Your DM might say that's a perception check. It also might qualify as an investigation check. Depending on what it is, assuming we find it, we might be able to just snatch it up, or we might actually have to wait for our next turn to use the action, use an object. There are a lot of things we can do that seem like intuitively they should fall under use an object, but we just kind of get them for free. In fact, in older systems and other game systems, they're called free actions. But if you want to unsheath your sword or notch an arrow or flip your hood back and dramatically reveal whatever, your new haircut, then we kind of just get those for free. We can take a movement, we can still use an action to attack or cast a spell or hide or whatever, and unsheath our sword, whatever. There's a lot of stuff that falls into that category. However, there's another whole host of things that are going to require our full action to use an object. So a lot of magic items are going to fall into this category, and they'll spell it out in writing. This takes an action to do. Otherwise, it's really a question of time. How long does this interaction with the object take? So, you're going to pick up the ring. Yeah, that's probably just a free action, whatever. That's a freebie, I'll give it to you. You're trying to flip that lever, right? If that lever's a light switch, then yeah, cool. But if it's a big, heavy stone thing and the machinery is grinding and it takes two of you to do it, and it's a strength check, then yeah, absolutely. That's going to be your action that turn. So a little piece of Dungeon Master advice. It all comes down to timing, right? Is it free, instantaneous? Can I do it like that? Or is it going to take about 5 or 6 seconds? Is it going to take the duration of the round to do the thing? If you're really stuck on an edge case, it's it's 2 seconds, 3 seconds to do that thing. Everyone's arguing about it, whatever. Then you do have available that bonus action, right? There's another increment of time that the player gets. So certain things I'll rule as a bonus action if I'm really uncertain whether or not yeah, I'll just give it to you, or it's going to take your action to do this thing. One very popular homebrew version of this is drinking a potion. Now, rules as written, raw, R-A-W, rules as written, the ingestion of a potion of healing requires an action, straight up. I'm gonna, and that's taking it out of the bag, uncorking it, drinking it down. That's my action that turn. At my table and a lot of tables I've seen, that is ruled as a bonus action. That's homebrew. That's not rules as written. So, don't argue with your GM about it if they like it taking a turn. But at my table, yeah, drinking a healing potion is a bonus action. Administering a healing potion to someone lying at 0 HP, making death saves, that's a full action. Another underappreciated, underutilized one, in my opinion, is ready in action. When we ready in action, we use our turn to declare what we're going to do if and when some condition is met. So I'm going to fire my crossbow at the dragon once it enters my normal range. Or I am going to, move my 30 feet, and then I am going to ready in action. I'm going to take my battle axe and I'm going to swing at the first thing that enters my reach. So we use our action to ready an action, and then it's actually our reaction that is going to be what's used when we get triggered. So it's going to happen on somebody else's turn, so it's using our reaction. So we only get to do it once. So I can't say I'm going to swing at anything that comes at me, and then as 5 enemies go past, I get to swing at each of them. No, I can get one action that's being held, I use my reaction, and then it is spent. If the thing that you're waiting for never happens, then that's that. You don't get to change up what your action would have been that turn. If I'm going to shoot the dragon when it comes into range and it doesn't, I spend 6 seconds waiting for the thing to happen, and that's my turn that round. That's what I did that round. I can do something different on the next round when it's my turn, but I don't get to re-spend that action or whatever just because the thing I was waiting for never happened. One other thing to keep in mind, if we are casting a spell as a readied action, then we spend that spell slot immediately, right? So if I'm going to cast magic missiles when the dragon comes into my range, then I cast magic missiles, I check off that spell slot, and I'm kind of just holding on to it. And if the dragon never comes into my range, then the spell kind of fizzles out after the round is over, and I don't get that spell slot back. Again, we're talking about magic when we're done with combat, so if that didn't mean that much to you, no worries, stay tuned. So yes, as you can see, writing an action can be a gamble, right? You're not in control of all of the circumstances, but sometimes it can be the absolute best thing to do. If the dragon is flying in and out of range or coming in and out of the lake, gaining full cover so you won't be able to hit them otherwise, then that's pretty much the only thing you can do is ready in action. The other often forgotten thing that you can do with ready in action is combinations, synergies between player characters at the table. So if the rogue maybe wants to hold on to the attack that they're about to do so that the druid can cast fairy fire, so now the rogue is going to get advantage on that attack, so they get sneak attack damage and they're more likely to score a critical hit, then that's good gameplay. If the wizard wants to cast fireball but the monk is in the mix, then the wizard can hold that fireball spell, wait for the monk's turn to come around. The monk can take their attacks and get the heck out of the blast radius, and the wizard can release the spell. So you can see with a little imagination and teamwork, you can create some pretty awesome combinations using ready in action. It doesn't have to be 2, it could be 3, 4, 5 players, who knows. But that's getting a little more, intermediate, advanced combat tactics. And this is the introductory series. And that about covers it for the introduction to combat. Please, if you didn't watch part 1, go back and see that there's some very essential information in there. Coming up on deck, we are going to talk, actually coming up on deck for the channel, I'm going to have a conversation about how combat fits into the greater game and the current D&D meta, for lack of a better word, because that's what came out when I tried to write all this. So there you go. But coming up in the playlist for D&D 101 is going to be magic. Now, if you're not making a caster and you're not that interested in learning about magic, and it's a rich, complex subject, which I love, but it's pretty dense, then you can actually skip ahead, and we're talking about weapon and armor after that. But until then, please get out there, have fun. You don't need to know every little detail of the rules in order to get out there and play this game. And the more you play, the more you're going to understand the intricacies of all of this. So please, get out there, get with your friends, play this game, and have fun. Be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.